Hello, welcome to Yamala Yoga. I'm Jane, and we haven't been in English for a long while, so it's about time to have a session in English. And today we're going to do a yin practice, focusing on your bones. It's something that we don't often think about unless we've got a problem with them. They're just there, they're just hanging in there. And we're going to just delve in a little bit to feeling, connecting with and celebrating your wonderful bones. So we're going to do a little practice for the first 5 minutes, which is called, can be called shaking or rattling your bones. And then we're going to do 6 yin postures. You will need a couple of blocks if you have them. Most of you, some of you may not need them, or books, a belt, a yoga strap, or a toweling row belt, or a scarf, anything you can use to put over your foot, because we're going to do this posture, and a bolster, cushion, a pillow, a blanket, rolled up things that can give you support in the poses. Okay, so let's go. We're starting standing, the rest of it's going to be on the floor. So from standing, I'm going to cut the top of my head off a little bit, but that doesn't matter. So we're going to feet a little bit apart, and actually I would recommend for this that you loosen your hair so that everything's loose. Okay, so rattling your bones involves feet on the ground, a little bit separate, and just separating your arms a little bit from the body, and then just bouncing, keeping your whole feet on the ground, and we're going to do it for 5 minutes. Okay, so try and relax your jawbone. So this jawbone is one of the heaviest bones in the body, and you can use at the first your fingers just to kind of drop it down at this kind of very attractive face, and just try and keep that loose. Yeah, so the elbows can be a little bit separate from the body. If you have abundant breasts, then and they're uncomfortable bouncing up and down, you're welcome to just put your hands over your boobs, and just bouncing. This is really good for shaking out tension, just general tension in the body, tension between the bones, as in the joints, and is really good for shaking out anything that you don't want, like shaking out worries, anxiety. This is a moment that's quite difficult for so many of us. So if you're feeling at all anxious or worried, this is a really fantastic thing to do every morning. For at least 5 minutes. You can do it for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. On this video, I think it would be a bit full on if I did it for 20 minutes. So we're going to do it for 5. And feet on the ground, just as relaxed as possible. And make sure you don't start lifting your chin up, because then you can create extra tension in the neck, back of the neck, which we don't want. And just keep everything nice and loose. If holding the elbows outwards is uncomfortable for you, then just let the arms drop. But it's quite nice to give space to your side of your rib cage and to your inner arms. And you can even let sounds out in the exhalation if you fancy, because it's really fantastic as well. And apart from letting sounds out in the exhalation, don't worry about how you're breathing. Just focus on feet on the ground and your whole body rattling out any uncomfortable things that you've got stuffed in the corners, worries, tensions, anxiety, expectations, resentment, frustration. Just shake it all out. And as I said, it's a fantastic thing to do every morning. Wouldn't do it at night time because it kind of gets the energy going. But it can't be done too many times. You could just do it every single day if it feels good, which it does. So just hang on in there, keep on shaking, and maybe you want to go slower, maybe you want to go faster. If you get tired, believe me, you can go on. You have got energy to keep going. It's a really good one as well to get rid of tiredness, actually. If you're feeling bluff and you need to get going, this is a great thing to do. You can always put music on as well. But in theory, we don't need to kind of swing from side to side or anything like that. Just keep it from the ground up to the earth. And let's keep on going. Rattling your bones. They're so often forgotten that although this is sometimes part of a Kundalini Osho meditation, we're not always focusing on the bones when we do this same thing. But now if you do focus on your bones, then they're going to be happy. They like a bit of attention. They get nearly constantly ignored. So like anything else, they respond well to a bit of attention. So just imagine your skeletal structure, which is totally and completely unique to you. And just keep it bouncing, rattling, shaking out. Shaking out those thoughts, stuck thoughts that don't really get you anywhere, that we've all got loads of. And of course you can close your eyes. We've just got a little bit more to go, maybe another minute. And just keep on going there. If it is your first time, 5 minutes might feel quite long, but actually it's nothing. It's a flash. And I do highly recommend 15 minutes because that is just wonderful. Okay, the last few seconds. And slowly come to a stop. Let yourself can't fall down to the ground. Ideally, something under your knees, and just lay yourself down to stillness. And as you feel that tremendous wash of energy all around your body. Start becoming aware of your bones, your skeleton here laid on the ground with the knees bent. You've probably got 206 bones, more or less. There are various adjustments, slight differences to that. Most of us have 206, we're born with about 300 and then they fuse together. And yeah, when they're healthy, these bones are healthy and happy. They're dense but pliable. They're partly made up of collagen, which gives them a slightly bendy aspect. And it means that they're less likely to break when they're banged and when we fall. Just imagine in whatever way, it doesn't have to be very accurate anatomically by any means, just imagine whatever you imagine as your skeleton right now. Okay, lovely. And from there, let's go to our first pose. So, we're going to get hold of the strap and we're going to push the feet down to the ground, put your big pillow, rolled up blanket, big cushion, whatever you've got, under your sacrum. And from there, let's take the right knee into the chest. Let me bring my clock a bit closer so that we don't overdo the time or underdo the time on the yin poses. Okay, so let's take the right leg up to the sky, the strap on the sole of the foot, and let's hold on to the strap. So if you've got loops like I have, you can just hang your hands into the loops. If not, you could try and roll the strap twice around your foot, wherever it gets to, so that you don't have to grip too much with your hands. And then you can choose left foot, left leg can be bent or it can be straight, depending on the sensation. So in yin yoga, in the yin poses, the first thing we want to do is find the appropriate edge. So the appropriate edge is a place where you can be, which is slightly uncomfortable, but not so uncomfortable that you have to grit your teeth. Okay, and we're going to be here for another 3 minutes from here. So, just let your hands hang, your arms and the weight of your arms hang down. And of course we're getting into the hamstring of the right leg and maybe the glutes, maybe the lower back. Some people might even feel it in the inner thigh. That's all our target area, so that's where you may or may not be feeling sensation. And after time, your tissues may soften and you may find that you can adjust a little bit. Or on the other hand, you may find that the sensation becomes too acute and you need to soften a bit. And then find stillness. We're going to stay, as I said, for another now still couple of minutes. And in yin we stay for at least 3 minutes so that we can get into the deep connected tissues that are surrounding the joints and within the joints. So it's just really great for the joint connections, and it also does stimulate the bones as well. So whilst you're here, just visualize your skeletal structure in this pose. I bet you've never done that before. It's not something we spend a lot of time doing. And just imagine those 33 bones of your right foot. Imagine what they're up to. The long leg bones. Imagine your pelvis. Feel as well your rib cage and what goes on with those ribs, with your inhalation and with your exhalation. So it's under discussion whether the bones actually count as fascia or not, but it probably doesn't really matter to us. The important thing is that the bones do need stimulation, like all the other parts of our body. They need stimulation, not too much stimulation because then they could fracture, but enough stimulation so that they remain healthy, so that they keep producing collagen, have enough calcium and vitamins within them, and minerals. So, right now you may or may not be feeling a slight sensation of compression in the front of your right hip. That would be great for that hip joint. You may be feeling compression in the back of your left heel on the ground. Just aware of the places where you are feeling like there's nowhere else to go. For example, the back of your skull as well, as it heavily sits on the ground, has a little compression there with the mat. Okay, lovely. And now very slowly let's slip the belt away, take the heel down, and if it's okay for you, straighten the leg, and if that's not okay, then bend. Yeah, for a little bit of resonance pose, about half a minute. Just to feel the sensation of energy moving in the area that you've worked. So after the yin pose, we come out slowly because the tissues are a little bit of a delicate state after the stress of the pose, and then we just lay still for a moment to feel the tissues slowly beginning their journey back to their original position, now strengthened and lubricated. Great, let's go for the other side. So left knee into the chest, left sole of foot with the strap. Of course, if you, because of your skeletal structure, can get to your foot with your hands, you're welcome to use your hands directly. That doesn't make you any better or any worse, of course. And again, we can bend the right leg, we can straighten it. It all depends on the sensation. You may be getting sensation in the hamstrings and the glutes and the lower back. Don't want to have tension in the neck, so make sure if your neck needs supporting, do support something. Put a cushion under your head. And we're going to go for another just under 3 minutes. So usually we do it just with a little bit of talking you into the pose, and from there another 3 minutes. So some of you, if you're getting quick, will have more like 4, and others will have 3. And we need that time to be able to get right into the deep connected tissues. So right now we're getting deeply into that left hip joint, and of course we're working the tissues in the back and the hamstrings of the left leg, as well as maybe the ear groin on the right side, and maybe a little bit of inner thigh on the right, and those are all the target areas. So again, just visualize your skeletal structure and start to just connect with your spine. So the spine, the amazing spine, it's like the most incredible architectural structure that's ever existed. And yours is totally unique, as is everyone's. So most people have a sacrum, which is 5 joined together bones, but some people have a little bit of movement in them still, and some people only have 4 joined together bones there. Most people have 5 lumbar vertebrae, but there are the unusual cases of people who have 4 or have 6. And you may not know it, even if you've not had an x-ray, you wouldn't even know that if you had that unusual, slightly 1 more or 1 less. And as well, and the same in the thoracic spine, most people have 12, but you may have 13, and some unusual people have 11. And it doesn't need to cause them any problems whatsoever. And apparently we all have 7 cervical vertebrae. But not only are all our spines different, but every single vertebra is different from the next. So just contemplating the wonder of your amazing spine. But I bet you usually only think about it when it's dodgy or when something's up. So try and just think how wonderful it is. And we nearly come to the end of this side. So this is flamingo pose. And let's very slowly let go of your strap. Bring the heel down and very slowly, it's totally usual for your leg to feel heavy and aged after the pose. Let's this time push the feet down to the ground and just let your cushion go to the side and rest down. To enjoy those wonderful feelings of movement of energy in your hip, especially your left hip now. Stay there for a moment more. And let's go to the next pose. So we're going to do half moon pose. Let me just take this back here. And so let's first of all, let's take the arms up and over, get hold of your elbows. If that's not comfortable for you, by all means get hold of your forearms or your wrists. And then let's walk the heels a little bit over to the left until you start getting a new sensation in the right side of your body. And then from there, you can just edge your head and shoulders a little bit over to the left, so as if you are looking at yourself from above. It's like a half moon. This is also called banana posture, but I think half moon's a little bit more elegant. I like it better anyway. Although I do love bananas, but there's something a little bit more elegant about half moon. And from there, if you need more sensation, we're looking for a slightly uncomfortable or moderately uncomfortable sensation in this side body. And then take that right ankle over your left ankle, and that will give you more sensation. So we don't want so much sensation that you can't breathe, but you want to feel it in that right waist, right side body, maybe the right hip, maybe even a little bit into the lower back. And then we can look up to the sky, you can look to your left inner arm, to your right inner arm, whatever you fancy. We don't want too much sensation in the neck area. Okay, from there we're going to do just under 3 minutes. So let me just adjust the clock so I can see it a little bit easier. See where I can take it. Okay. So from there, if your hands are gripping and grasping and it's a little bit uncomfortable for them, do feel free to just let go of your elbows. You also try and soften. That's one element that I still haven't mentioned, that when you find your edge, where you have a slightly or moderately uncomfortable sensation in that side body, you may have a sense of compression in your left side body as well. That's when you need to begin to soften and relax as much as possible. So, just melting those muscles so that you can get deeper inside and within the joints. And as we're laying here, as we begin your journey into letting go, because relaxing is not just an on-off switch, of course, it's a many-layered process, and there's nearly always something left to let go of. As you let go of your glutes and your thigh muscles, your jaw muscle, any tension that you may have in your arms and in your armpits. Again, begin to visualize your spine, and from there the rest of your bones in this position. And again, just connect with the wonder of what's going on in there. So we're creating space in the spinous processes, or the transverse processes on the side, the bones on the side of the vertebrae. And we're possibly creating compression on the left side of those transverse processes, or the knobby bits that come out the side of the vertebrae that in the thoracic spine join to the ribs, that then do their nice arch round to join to the sternum on the front. And nearly down this side, do let your skull be heavy. Let the whole weight of your skull fall down to the ground, and make sure that your mouth is a little bit open so that there's no tension there. Your tongue is juicy. Okay, and very slowly let's make our way out of half moon pose. So take your arms slowly down, slowly uncross your ankle, come back to center. You may feel fine just flat out on the ground, and if you need to, by all means, do take your knees into the chest and just hold on to your knees for the resonance pose. And if it's possible for you, straighten your legs, because that is how we do tend to feel a little bit more of the deliciousness. So if you need to take your knees into the chest, do, otherwise nice and flat. And once you've had your knees into your chest for a few seconds, then do take your feet down to the ground, straighten your legs, widen your feet, and just be here for a few more seconds. Enjoying the flow of energy, probably in that right side body, knowing that you've stimulated your vertebrae, and that you've probably stimulated your ribs a little bit, stimulated your hips, your hip joints. And from there, let's go get ready for the other side. So arms overhead. Get hold of your elbows, and whichever way you got hold of your elbows, change the direction, so the other forearm is on top. And then walk your heels over to the right this time, and walk your elbows and your arms and your head a little bit over to the right. And then you may or may not want to cross your left ankle over your right ankle. And choose your position for your head, and from here we're going to go for another 3 minutes. And if you're not sure which direction you had your arms, then just do whatever's natural and change it, because for sure you do whatever's natural on the first side. Lovely, and from there start just sinking down, softening the resistance, letting go so many infinite layers of tension that we hold in our bodies. In our muscles, the most obvious place, but also in our ligaments, in our tendons, in our skin. Can you soften your skin? And of course in our bones. So let the full weight of your bones fall down to the ground. And those bones of yours need the perfect amount of stress. So they need all the possible movements, all these joints. They need flexion, extension, rotation. They need traction or elongation, which can happen by hanging. It's good, they love that as well. And they need compression as well, which is where they're pushing against each other, or something is being pushed against something, there's nowhere else to go. So all those things are going to help maintain your healthy bones. And we're just coming to the last minute on this side. So after a while, maybe the tissues just give a little bit, and you may need to adjust to create that slightly uncomfortable sensation, or that moderately uncomfortable sensation. We never want to get to pain, by the way. And if you do happen to find that your arms fall asleep, then or go numb, you want to slowly make your way out. And you can always bring yourself out of the pose before I say. If you need to, if for whatever reason you're feeling just too uncomfortable, whether that be physically or mentally, emotionally, do always feel free to come out of the pose out. Lovely. Okay, we're nearly there, so just take a nice deep breath. Notice how that changes your ribs, the sense of your ribs on the left side, and then exhale all the air, nice deep sigh. And then very slowly letting go of the arms, uncrossing the ankle if you had it crossed, and walking back to the center, taking your arms down. And again, if you need to bend the knees into the chest, then please do. If not, just stretch your legs out. And enjoy the delicious sensation of movement on the left side of your body. If you had your knees into the chest, let go of them now. And of course, we're also stressing the tissues that go around the internal organs. And all the tissues of the body are going to be receiving some stress from this practice. Okay, lovely. And from there, we are going to slowly bring ourselves on to the front of the body, and just let's do a little bit of wide-kneed child's pose, just for a minute or so, to open up the lower back. And if this is not comfortable for you, you can always just keep face up and bring your knees into your chest. And just hang there. Maybe again visualize your spine in this very gentle curve. Visualize those little vertebrae of your cervical spine and the thoracic spine, your lumbar vertebrae, your sacrum and your coccyx. Lovely, and from there let's go to our third pose. So we've done flamingo on both sides, we've done half moon on both sides, and now we're going to go to a dragon pose. So you may or may not need your blocks to hand, and you may need something to protect your knees. So we're going to take the right foot and take a big step forward. I'm going to protect my knee with a cushion. If you don't feel uncomfortable in your left knee, then by all means just leave it on the ground. And from there we're going to take the hands on the inside, and we're going to go for inside dragon. So from there, hands on the ground. If your wrists are feeling tender, then you can use fists, and with palms facing inwards, gentle fists. And you could also build up your blocks so that you can support your forearms on the blocks, and then there's no discomfort in the wrists, but you may want to have a little bit of discomfort in the wrists because it's really good for the wrists. And how will you know? Well, if it's too much, you probably won't be able to breathe, you might be clenching your teeth, you might be thinking, oh my God, why did I choose this practice? And then you may need to adjust with your wrists. If you have the possibility of coming down, then do come down to your forearms, and we're looking for sensation apart from in the wrists or in the forearms, in the inner right thigh, the inner groin, the right hip joint, and some of you may be feeling it on the front of the left hip. And so just soften as much as possible. Once you've found your perfect place to be, your perfect edge where things are slightly uncomfortable, but you can still breathe without blockages. Softening as much as you can, and again, let's imagine your physical structure in this pose. What's going on there with that right leg, with that right femur, the long bone of your thigh? What's happening with your pelvis? Imagine maybe your forearms, the 23 bones in each hand, the 8 bones in your wrists. I mean, wherever you focus on, if you're looking at the bones, you're going to be impressed. You have to be impressed. It's just so amazing, the human body. And we don't often think about what's going on the inside until, as I said before, until there's something up. So just wallow in how wonderful your bones are and that slightly uncomfortable sensation, which we're going to be holding on to for another minute. And so this pose is named dragon pose because it is quite fiery. So if you need to soften or come out early, then do feel free, as we said before. But if not, then just be aware of what happens when the sensation becomes a little bit more uncomfortable. Where does your mind go? Can you just be there without trying to push anything away, without trying to make the discomfort eased, without trying to solve anything, just being there, no grasping, no grabbing. Softening as much as you can within the pose. Okay, great, and very slowly, let's make our way out. And it's totally normal to feel like you've got a wooden leg. Let's stretch ourselves down to the ground for the resonance pose. And whichever's comfortable for you, maybe your head to the side, your arms back. If you want a cushion, then by all means get yourself a cushion. And just find stillness again, enjoying the delicious freedom from the dragon pose and the sense of movement in the right hip. Okay, and now we're all set to go for the other side, so protecting the right knee if you need to. Let's take the left foot forward and take the hands on the inside and begin to play around, explore which is the perfect option for you. So if the hands are, if it feels like you're getting enough sensation in the left inner thigh, the left hip joint, then that's great, you can stay there. You may want to come down to the forearms, you may want to use blocks. It may be very different on this side than on the other side. I'm a little tighter on this side, for example. And again, you may want to create a support for your forehead. You may want to use your hands to support your forehead, that's always an option as well, especially if your neck is feeling tired or delicate. And then once you've found your perfect place to be, just soak it up, soak up the sensation, soak up the discomfort, and soften as much as possible. And whilst you're here in fiery dragon pose, you may want to contemplate or reflect upon your response to bones, to your skeleton. What comes up when you think of bones or when you think of a skeleton? What comes up for you? What associations have you? Without thinking why, or without really letting yourself go into the stories that have created those associations, just becoming aware of what associations they have for you, knowing that nothing is right and nothing is wrong. And then once again, just be aware of those delicate bones in your feet and in your hands. bony ring that is your pelvis, with its amazing intricacy and ability to open up a little bit so that you can give birth if you're a woman, and it also helps us to walk as the pubic bone separates a little bit. So we're nearly there, a few more seconds on this side. And just letting go a little bit more, one more breath in. Exhale the air out. And very slowly. There's no other way really. Let's come out. And again, make your way down to the ground. Don't worry about coming out in an elegant way. Yin yoga is not about looking elegant. It's just about whatever is going on within the sensations of your body, and just let yourself drop down to enjoy that waterfall of delicious energy in maybe your lower back, your hips, your inner thighs. And just imagining your bones and how happy they are. Okay, great, let's go for the next pose. So we're going to go for a symmetrical pose after quite a lot of asymmetry. So we're going to do this from sitting. So let's sit down on your bottom. Let's all sit down on your bottom. That doesn't really make sense. Let's sit down on everyone's own bottom. And let's widen the feet and push up to squat pose. Now, lots of possibles here. You may have your heels in the air, which may be okay for you. If it's not okay, you may want to just put a rolled up blanket under your heels, or a rolled up towel is fine as well, of course, or anything else that would do the job. And you may find that it's far too strong to be in this position, in which case you may want to create yourself a chair, a little stool to place your bum on. And then if you notice, the physical structure of my body is very similar, but I don't have so much charge, so much weight on my articulations, so that's also an option. There's also the possibility of doing it with a wall, so you can just rest your back body on the wall as well. That makes it a little lighter. And it's really important that you do what you need to do, because we're going to be here for another 3 and a bit minutes. Okay, so you can't be in agony. We need a slightly or moderately uncomfortable sensation. Okay, so from there, if you're not feeling very much at all, you may want to widen your feet or bring your feet a little bit close together. Experiment with the ankles. Yeah, and as ever, the head, if I let my head drop, I probably get less sensation, but you may get more. It depends on your proportions and your tissues, and wherever it is that you find yourself okay to be, your perfect place to be with a slight discomfort or moderate discomfort. We're going to be here for another 2.5 minutes. So I'm beginning to soften and looking ideally for stillness. If you're fidgeting a lot, it may mean that, which just may mean that you're particularly busy in your mind, and eventually it'll die down. Or it may mean that it's just too strong, the pose is too strong for you and you need to soften it. May mean that you just really hate to be still and it's such a hard thing for you to do, in which case I would recommend sticking with it. Just see what happens when you do encourage stillness. And again, just visualize your bones. As we said before, they're so strong. We think of them as being hard, but they do have a slightly element of elasticity in them because of the collagen that they're partly made of. And that elasticity is very important for their health, because the brittler they are, the more likely they are to break. So as we're doing this pose, we are creating stress on the bones of our leg bones, our hip bones, the spine, the ankle as well, are all benefiting from stress, which is the force applied on the tissues, in this case the bones. We may be having compression in the front of the ankle joint or not. You may be feeling compression in the front of the thighs, so the front of the hip joint, or there may be tension as the tissues stretch open in the back body. But all those things are going to be making the bones healthier and happier. So a few more breaths in squat pose. Can you soften one last little bit more? Just in the knowledge that we're about to come out of the pose, that the suffering is about to end. Okay, so very slowly, let's let your bum come down. If you had cushions or blocks, get rid of them, and let's stretch out the legs for a moment. And just rest on your hands or your forearms for the resonance pose. Enjoying the movement in your thighs, your hips. And maybe beginning to connect with your bones with affection, with admiration, and with love. Okay, so let's go for an extension. Yeah, so we've done flexion, we've done side bend, so lateral flexion, and we've done and we haven't done a twist yet. We're going to do a twist later. We're now going to do an extension. So we want a block or a cushion or a blanket, something that's quite solid. And we're going to come down, knees bent, push the feet down to the ground. And let me just get my clock a little closer. And put your block or your very solid pillow under your sacrum. And we're going to go for supported bridge pose. So from there, you may already have enough sensation. So we're probably going to have a sensation of compression in the lower back. So those vertebrae are pushing against each other. That's great for the spine. And you may have a sense of tension in the front body as the tissues elongate. If you need more, you could straighten your legs out. You could widen your feet, will probably give you less sensation. Join them together will give you more. And if you need more, you could take your arms up and overhead, any way that feels good. If you still don't really feel enough sensation, either in the front body and most probably in the back body, then you could try creating a little bit more height. And as ever, it's got absolutely nothing to do with how
clever you are or how spiritual you are, it's just got to do with the nature of your bones. So yeah, we were born with not the same bones because they obviously grow as we grow, but there's really nothing, no amount of any kind of practice that can really change the structure of your bones. So some people have very little extension simply because the bones, as soon as they do a little bit of an extension, those spinous processes, the bumps that you see at the back, the vertebrae that you see on your back body, they just chop, they join together. They don't chop because that's Spanish, but they bang together. And so there's absolutely no way there's no amount of practice that's going to change that. So what we're doing here is we're trying to find that point where they do create compression in the lower spine, the lumbar spine. So again, looking for that perfect sensation. It's not too much, it's not too little. And we're going to hang out for another 2.5 minutes in this pose. So softening as much as you can. Relaxing that jawbone again, feeling the weight of your skull. And finding stillness, knowing that if you need to adjust, you're always welcome to adjust, and to encourage you to, at any stage, if you're unsure whether maybe it's too much, soften a bit and see if that feels more appropriate. Again, so it's that moderate sensation of discomfort, but never ever do we want to get to pain. And why do we need discomfort? Well, because if you are feeling a slight discomfort or moderate discomfort, that is a sign that you are creating appropriate tension in those deep connected tissues, which is what this practice is about. So if you're not feeling anything, you're not going to do any harm, but you're not going to stimulate those tissues. You're not going to be stimulating your bones. So we're always looking for the edge, the perfect edge, which is not too much and not too little, which is really what life is about on the whole. And when we find that we've gone too far, to be aware of that and to come back. And if you haven't gone far enough, to also be aware of that and maybe look for it just a wee bit more. And again, in this pose, just be aware of what's going on with your spine and your rib cage, that amazing structure which is there to protect your heart and your lungs. So just notice what goes on with your inhalation and with your exhalation, those subtle changes that are constantly going on, even in total stillness. The spine, the bones, your skeletal structure is moving with every breath. So if you're anything like me, you will be starting to feel very affectionate towards your bones. Of course, because I'm doing this the whole month, I probably become a little bit over in love with my bones. And with everyone else's bones as well. I have to stop myself from imagining everyone's bones everywhere I go. So a few more breaths. Nearly there. And let's begin our way out of the pose very slowly. Taking the arms down, bending the knees and pushing the feet down to get rid of your support. And laying your body flat on the ground, laying your bones flat to enjoy the resonance pose. that should feel absolutely delicious in your back body. Okay, lovely. So now we're going to go for a twist. Yeah, so a rotation. So let's open the arms, more or less in line with the shoulders. Remember, in yin yoga, it really does not matter what you look like. The important thing is what you're feeling, is your sensations. So let's begin. Feet on the ground, as before, but this time we're going to push the feet down to the ground a tiny bit and take the hips a little bit over to the right. Then take the knees to the chest and let the legs fall over to the left. And you can look over to the right if that's comfortable in your neck. Okay, so from there, you could play around with the height of your right arm or your left arm as well. So we're looking for sensation in the right side of the body and in the waist, maybe in the hip and in the lower back. And if you would like a little bit more, you could take the bottom leg down and you could maybe straighten the top leg, stretch the top leg out. Can you see that? If that's possible for you. I'm actually meeting the wall, so I've got compression between the sole of my foot and the wall, which is actually quite lovely. So if that happens to you, then go for it. But some people will not want to straighten their top leg because it will just be too much, or maybe the top leg won't even stretch, and it's tissues are too tight for it to straighten out. So that's fine. Just keep both legs bent. Yeah, don't forget that we're never looking. That our aim is not to go for any particular pose. We're just looking for sensation. So you may have sensation now in the hips, as we said before, in the legs, and we're really giving a great stimulation to the spine as it twists round to the right. So we actually have a lot of capacity for rotation in our neck and in our thoracic spine, and not so much in the lumbar spine. So wherever you are, just letting go and sinking into the pose, softening as much as you can. And again, you may want to hone in with your mind's eye on your spine and what's going on in your spine just now. That intricate nature of each vertebra and how they're all just twisting round to the right. As the hips go over to the left. Can you make those bones a little heavier? That skull of yours. Your arm bones. Your pelvis. And your leg bones. Totally relaxed and heavy on the ground. Okay, lovely, and from there, wherever you are, very slowly free yourself from the pose. If you stretch your legs, again bending your legs, one leg on top of the other, and then very slowly making your way to center. And straightening out once again into the resonance pose. Just feeling that tingling, shimmering sensation. Of course, everybody feels it in their own way. As long as it feels delicious, That's great. That's what we want in the resonance pose. Okay, so let's go for the other side. So bending the knees again, and feet push down. Take the hips a little bit over to the right side, knees to the chest. No, we did that last time, sorry. So now the hips are going a little bit over to the left side, knees to the chest, take the legs down to the right, and from there, playing around to see what is the appropriate edge of yours on this side, and it may be quite different from the other side because we are not symmetrical. It's a myth. We're often not born symmetrical, and then we live our life and that just gets rid of symmetry for nearly everybody. So you may want to stretch that top leg out if that's possible for you. If it's needed to create more sensation, you may want to take that bottom leg down. You may want to rest that right hand on top of the left thigh or the left leg, or you can get to the left foot. You may want to twist around to look at the left hand, and then we'll do another 3 minutes from now in the pose. So whenever you find your perfect edge, slight discomfort maybe in the area of the glutes or the hip joint, maybe in the lower back, maybe in the shoulder, the left shoulder. Begin to sink down to the ground, just becoming aware as we're coming to the end of the practice of those, the resistance that you have. You know, we always think we often, not always, but we often think that, oh yeah, I'm totally relaxed, and then you realise, oh, hold on a minute, God, that was a load of tension there that I didn't realise I had. So just be aware of those little pockets of tension, those layers upon layers of deep tension that we hold on to, that maybe you may be carrying around for days, maybe for weeks, maybe for months, maybe even for years. And as you give yourself space and time in the yin pose to just be still and let go, just allowing blockages that you may have had for a really long time to unblock, loosening tension within your vertebrae, within the joints of your hip, maybe your shoulder joints, just loosening and letting go. Maybe creating tension, maybe creating compression. Maybe a little bit of shearing, which is another movement that can be created in the tissues or in the joints, which is as the joints just, one goes one way and the other goes the other way. That's called shearing, which is also, if it's not too much, it's really good for the joints as well. So it's all about finding the edge, letting go, softening, and resisting the desire to grasp onto any tension or onto any thoughts, any necessity to do it right or to do it better, and just let yourself be. Okay, and from there, very slowly, no rushing, maybe join those legs together, one on top of the other again, arms more or less in a line, and then very Slowly roll back over onto your back and let's settle ourselves down into final relaxation pose. And I do recommend for everybody, whatever your skeleton is like, whatever your age, just to slip something under the knees for the last relaxation pose. Your skeleton will be delighted, I promise you. So, head in the centre, do find yourself a cushion if there's too much compression going on in the back of the skull or if your neck is uncomfortable. Now we're not looking for any uncomfortable sensations whatsoever. We're looking for just pure delight, comfort, ease, and relaxation. So just let yourself be still in the final relaxation pose and perhaps close your eyes, perhaps put something over your eyes if you have something to hand, so it can really go inwards. Just enjoying the delicious sensation of harmony within your body. Your bones finding their perfect place to be after being stimulated in this yin practice. And as you lay down on the ground, your breath slowing, your muscles loosening their grip, all your fluids flowing, and your bones heavy. We're going to end with a Mary Oliver poem that you're welcome to ignore if you don't fancy and you just want to remain in your own world, your own inner world. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes, to let it go. Let it go. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes, to let it go. Let it go. And again, just one last glance with your mind's eye towards your bones, lying here on the ground. And then begin to breathe a little deeper. And in the next inhalation, stretching open your hands and activating all those muscles within each hand, stretching your arms up and overhead, stretching out your whole body as if you're trying to really elongate your whole body, your skeleton stretching out, creating space between the
joints, and then exhale, relaxing your arms, bring your knees into your chest, squeeze your knees, squeeze your thighs. Again, just imagine your bones and what they look like in this pose as you're giving yourself a hug, and imagine that you're really just hugging your bones. They've been so ignored for so many years. Just give them a beautiful hug, and from there let go of your knees and roll over onto whichever side feels good. Push yourself up and come to sitting. And let's join the hands together in the heart center, thumbs just touching the sternum, if your breaths allow, if not, just a little bit in front. May all beings be happy, may we all be at peace. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed that practice. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and say you like, if you liked this practice, recommend it to your friends, and it's a really great all-round practice for your body, for your body's tissues, and of course especially for your bones. And just keep your bones in mind as you go about your day, as you go about your week, and we'll be back soon for another practice with Yamala Yoga. If you wanted to give a donation to Yamala Yoga, the information's in the just in the description of the class below the video, and any donation is always very welcome. And have a very lovely day and keep well.